afternoon, good morning to everyone who is on this panel. Thank you so much for your patience as we had a bit of technical difficulty. We're really excited to have you here today. My name is Tamara McMillan. I'm a board advisor to CSO Connected, CSO UK. Formerly, I was the executive director of sales for Virgin Media Business, and I'm absolutely humbled and delighted to be here today with panelists. And I thank you each for giving your time and expertise and wisdom, and also to all of the attendees giving of their time. I hope that this is valuable for you and that you leave with some nuggets that you can implement so we can all continue to make a difference and better represent our customers, our clients, and the communities that we operate in. A little housekeeping, this will be recorded, and attendees, you should have your cameras, should already be off and you on mute. We will answer some questions at the end. If you would be so kind as to submit them through the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many of those as we can at the end of our discussion today. Our topic is how sales can crack the diversity and inclusion code. While we all know there's a lot of work to do to become more diverse in our workplaces and certainly to be more inclusive and create a sense of belonging, sales, sadly, is notoriously lagging in this area. We certainly don't see enough gender diversity, nor do we see enough ethnic diversity, cognitive diversity, socioeconomic diversity. It's a fairly homogenous group, and we know that that doesn't allow us to serve our customers well, and it has other effects. We know the benefits of diversity are things like more profitable businesses. So we want to have a straight conversation today that shares experiences. Battle scars are welcome. We like to hear, where we've gotten it wrong so that we can get it right. But I'm going to start off by introducing our panel members briefly, each of them incredibly accomplished and distinguished. Gary Elden, I'll start with you. Gary is the chairperson of RecBid as well as Amoria Bond. He is also the trustee of the Aledo Foundation. Prior to these roles, Gary worked for a FTSE listed specialist recruitment company you probably have heard of called S3. He joined in 1990 and he rose up through the ranks to becoming CEO in 2013, where he served in that position for 6 years and saw the company not only be wildly successful, but have substantial recognition for being an exemplary company in diversity and inclusion, and also one of the greatest companies to work in. Gary is also the Business Person of the Year in 2015 at the Black British Business Awards. And he also has met the Queen. In 2016, Gary was awarded an OBE for his achievement and service to diversity in business. It's an honor to have you here, Gary. Thank you so much for being with us today. We also have Catherine Lynch. Catherine is the former Chief People Officer for Virgin Media. She is a commercially focused HR director who is incredibly passionate about developing people and improving the employee experience, which I think we can all attest doesn't always go as well as we'd like. But she works tirelessly to ensure that people actually sit at the heart of the business. And I had the fortune of working with her at Virgin Media. Over the past 3 years at Virgin, she really developed and enhanced diversity and inclusion for the business and pushed the envelope to make sure that we were doing all we could to reflect our customers. She now is an advisory board member for Dial Global, which is a global community which is committed to diverse, inclusive, and aspirational leaders. Welcome, Catherine. Thank you for being here. From the US, we have Stephanie Herrera. She's the Global VP of Computer Futures and runs the Salesforce practice for them. Stephanie is a global leader and mentor for technology communities. She's founded a bunch of different things. One is Salesforce Saturdays, hundreds of chapters, I think, now. She also has Salesforce Women in Technology chapters, the co-founder of PepTech, Texas Dreamin'. She's on the board of directors for Maravus, PepTech, and she is a 5-time winner of the Salesforce MVP Award. I know you've stood on the stage with Mr. Benioff himself. Thank you for being here today, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
Cynthia Barnes, another amazing leader, founder and CEO of the National Association of Women Sales Professionals, a LinkedIn top sales influencer, the creator of Thrive Success Strategies. This is the first and only sales training really focused on women, for women, by women. She's a highly sought after keynote speaker and a champion for women in sales. a persistent top 1% corporate producer and sales leader. This woman loves sales, and she's proof that you can accomplish what you set out to do and overcome any adversity if you're willing to work hard. She gets covered a lot in media circuits and has even appeared in the Wall Street Journal. Thank you so much for being here, Cynthia. And rounding it out, never last nor least, my friend Roderick Jefferson, the CEO of Roderick Jefferson and Associates. He has over 20 years of experience in sales leadership, record-breaking personal and team results. He's held a variety of executive leadership roles in sales, sales operation, and customer experience. He's worked for companies like Marketo, Oracle, Marketing Cloud, Salesforce, and the list of incredible brands goes on. He's an acknowledged thought leader and a keynote speaker, and I am proud to call him my friend. He's also award-winning, a LinkedIn top 10 sales and marketing influencer, Brainshark top 15 social media influencer, 2019 sales hacker. There's so many things, and I guarantee if you connect with him, you will see lots of awesome posts and great content. Roderick, thank you for also being here today.
My pleasure, thank you.
All right, so we know that diversity makes sense. High-performing teams are more productive, more profitable. Companies that have more than 33% of women at the board level are 15% more profitable compared to those that don't. They're about 1.5% profitable. But despite all of the compelling data out there, we're facing not only numbers that aren't good enough, but numbers that are declining. And I want to just mention these briefly. There's millions of them out there, but I'll just touch on a few for the context of how important this is. 83% of technology executives today are white. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But 83% is a big number. More than 50% of the employees at Apple and Google, I would say two standout organizations for innovation, and they appear to me to be very innovative around diversity and inclusion. They themselves, they have more than 50% of their employees are also white. And underrepresented minorities at Apple grew from 19% in 2014 to just 23% in 2017. So progress is happening in some areas, but it's really, really slow. And what's staggering is diversity in IT could net the industry an additional $400 billion in revenue per year. Okay, that's a lot of pennies and pounds. The FTSE 100, unfortunately, is failing with diversity and inclusion as well. BAME board members are just 3.3% of chairs, CEOs, and CFOs, and this is a number that's been static for 6 years. This is not changing, unfortunately. Among the top 20 level positions, BAME is down from 9% to 7.4% from 2018 to 2019, and at the top 100, it stayed flat at 10.7%. Between the United States and the UK, we share that the FTSE 100 and the S&P 100 only have 5 CEOs each, respectively, that are ethnic minorities. And in the UK, we have 1 that is Black and 1 that is Latin American. And I believe that is the same in the US. So there's an underrepresentation. And when it comes to sales, I don't have as great of numbers on minorities, but we know that they're there. But for women, we know that we're only 39% of employees, and it's only grown 3% in 10 years. So it was 36% 10 years ago. It's not changed much. In technology, that number is only 25%. And when you go into leadership, it's in the teens. So we know that there's more to do. We also know that women achieve quota more than men, 86% compared to 78. When they lead teams, they achieve at 94% compared to 91, and they're more likely to close a deal. So why isn't this happening? Because the sense is there. I think the desire is there. I think people want this to happen. My friend Roderick, you say hope is not a strategy. We need more, we need better, and we can be better. So if I can open up with questions, Gary, and I'd love to come to you first. And I'll mention in 2016, you talked about the fact that inclusion needs to be a given. And you were talking about the Olympics, that 45% of women were making up the competitors. And you said that it was because it wasn't up for conversation. It wasn't a debate. It just had to happen. During your tenure as CEO, you made incredible things happen at 3. How did you go about doing it? Why don't more companies achieve it? And what's the role of a CEO in making it happen?
Yeah, I don't think I achieved as much as I would have liked, to be honest. I honestly felt S3 was a meritocratic company. okay, because I made it to the top. There were female leaders, there were people from different ethnicities. And then we did some research and looked at the data, and basically based on the feedback we were getting from our staff, based on the research we put into it, most people in the business didn't feel it was a meritocratic environment. And it shocked me, actually. It was like, whoa, hold on. And if you look at the male and female scenario, we looked at the sort of intake of women in our company, and it was 50-50 at trainee level. When you go up one level, you saw the gap maybe 55-45 in men. You go up another level, it was 60-40. You go up another level, 70-40, 70-30, and then 80-20. And we started to sort of think, well, what are we doing wrong? And I think, in summary, I think the culture that we had in the business didn't really support the environment that we wanted. And we felt we were doing all the right things, but all the feedback on the culture wasn't spot on. It was a very male-dominated, laddish culture. And when I mean laddish, it was like, you know, bang the drums, bang your chest. Those who shout the loudest will get the best opportunities. And we've seen the stats around men and women, right? If a male thinks he can do a job and he can do the job 20% of the time, he'll put his hand up and says, I can do it. While a woman would be the opposite, right? They want to be sure that they can do it. So, and if you're in a culture where the louder you shout, the more opportunities you get, then the female sitting there is going to go, whoa, this is not right for me.
That can also be true for certain ethnicities. I know
this is it. It's not only females, right? If you're from a different religious, if you're not into the drinking culture, if you're not into sort of, you know, banging the drums, or if you're a female and it's not something you feel comfortable with, if you're a man, you don't feel comfortable, if you're from a certain type, you know, so it was something we looked at and we think we needed to change. But to change a culture of a business, you can't do that overnight. So it was a long, and it still is a long journey, right? And we tried to introduce some changes around the culture, around the incentives, about the environment, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And so over time, people in the company started to see they're serious at the top. They do want to make a difference. We had senior people in the business that had to leave because they weren't adapting to the changes. And so slowly and surely, we were starting to see the change. But like anything, it takes time. If that was the last 2 years of my focus, it's going to take another 5 to 8 years to really see the benefit of that. And that's on the basis that everybody else in the business is accepting the challenges that we have. And the biggest issue I had in the business is what the middle management, which consists of the biggest part of the leadership team, didn't understand there was a problem, didn't accept that there was a problem, and didn't basically were in denial, and basically said, oh, it's not true. Women are treated equally. I'm not racist. I'm not this. And the facts didn't back it up, right? Not that they were consciously being racist. It's unconsciously they were doing things and creating an environment that people of different ethnicity or gender didn't feel comfortable. Yeah. So although we did a lot of work, I think we're still on a journey. Still on a journey.
I appreciate that, and it's honest, isn't it? I mean, I think the reality is that it's more like turning the Titanic than it is sort of turning a dinghy. It's going to take time, and it's difficult to promote people that don't exist in the business, which normally we want to promote from within because that has a lot of benefit. And so you also have to go outside. Catherine, can I come over to you and ask you to maybe make some comments?
Tamara, if I could real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that, Gary. And let me preface, I would like to challenge that. Let me preface this though by saying, I work at S3 where Gary was the CEO. And at the time I came to S3, I was being courted by 5 different large consulting companies that had told me they'd been waiting for me for a year to come work for them when I was ready. And I ended up going to S3 because 1, they were a global company, and 2, they were led by Gary. And that was important to me as a person of color. And I love the fact that he grew up in the company and he made it to the top. So Gary was a big reason I came to this company. But I do have to disagree that it takes time. I think like with any business, if you truly desire to make something successful, you have to operationalize it. You have to put goals in. You have to pay people on that. I heard this great person speak at an event, and he said, if you are not hiring, promoting, and firing on your values, then you don't have values. We have to change our way of thinking and what we allow as acceptable, especially in sales. You get a quota, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you don't achieve that quota, you don't get paid. It's like Melody Hobson, she's George Lucas's wife, on the board of Starbucks and JP Morgan Chase. She said that there's this thing, her favorite quote, which is mine and was on my fridge. My kids saw this all the time. There was this quote I had on my fridge: "There is no try, only do." Yoda. And we as a business and the corporations have to take that mindset. We can no longer be okay with it takes time. We have to operationalize this. We have to have training, concise training, consistent training. And then it's not just after the hiring, we have to continue to develop and support them, but it can be done. We as businesses, we switch gears all the time to be successful. You have to be flexible. You have to be fluid if you're going to succeed. The same thing happens here. We all have to work together and not accept that it's going to take time. We operationalize this and we'll see the results.
Well, I think it's a fair challenge to put forward. And I certainly wouldn't mean, and I doubt that Gary did either, that by time it means we lolly. I mean, if COVID's taught us anything, it's that we can do a lot of things in a very short period of time if we have to, and if we really want to. So I think you're right. We can do it quickly. And
he's done a lot of the work. Gary's done a lot of work. He can't continue to do all the work.
So, right. So I think the question
and take what he started and run with it.
Right. So it comes down to pace, but it does still take some moment of time, whether that's a couple of months or a couple of years, to create. I mean, when your ethnic minority is in the low single digits, and if the community that you operate in is in the 20 or 30%, it's probably going to take a little bit of time to get there. But it is with intent. It is with doing things operationally, holding feet to the fire, making sure that we're going through, like you said, in sales, we have a high level of turnover. We should be able to get there faster than some other organization. So you're right about that. I was going to ask Catherine, and thank you, Stephanie, for coming in there. I was going to ask you to talk about, having sat at that top table as well, where the desire was right, but the execution was not, and where perhaps you've uncovered some of those challenges. You know, Gary was talking about people saying, well, I'm not racist, or I'm not this, and yet actually those biases were exactly the problem. And how do you root those out?
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'm sure we're going to build on each other's themes, but I was going to share a couple of genuine experiences by way of storytelling as a narrative. When I first arrived at Virgin Media, the direct sales force who basically went out, their role was to go out, knock on someone's door and try and sell a cable subscription for broadband, telephone and mobile to customers. The women representation in that sales force of nearly 1,500 people was less than 5%. And the person running the team, when I asked, well, why is it so low? As far as I last looked, the UK population is 50-50. And therefore, why are we not hiring? And there was an absolute bias that was a conscious bias that, oh no, this is far too dangerous a job for a woman to do, going out often in the evening to knock on a door at a consumer's property and not knowing who was behind. Couldn't possibly double them up because that would be reducing productivity and cost effectiveness, and those women would not feel safe, and he would not have had his wife or his daughter doing that job because he would want to protect that sales force. When I pointed out that the Metropolitan Police Force is made up of 50% female officers, and that they were probably doing a job significantly more dangerous than a direct salesperson, he went rather pale and couldn't answer my challenge. And so some of it is changing mindset and having a consequence that says unacceptable, no longer, going to just sit and allow those sorts of attitudes to permeate. Educate where you can, but at the end of the day, if education isn't shifting, then I absolutely get you, Stephanie. You can't be exposing a value of an inclusive organisation on one hand and allowing those sorts of practices. So we did process change quite a lot. Things like seeing our pictures of women in those roles all across our advertising, insisting on shortlists that were 50-50. In any shortlist of 4 candidates, there had to be 2 women, not one in 3. 2 in 4, because if it's 1 in 3, you get tokenism again, and it's too easy to reject the female candidate. So we didn't put quotas in, but we did put targets. And sales folks love measuring stuff, don't they? It's very tangible, love a league table, love a competition. And so we did lots of positive reinforcement for the areas where they were starting to make some breakthrough. And when I left, it was over 20% female representation. So yeah, perhaps not as quick as we would have liked, but you know, quite a significant volume uplift in that sales force. So I thought that was an example of something that personally you take a stand on. But I did also win the support of my CEO, and we partnered at the very top on 2 of the 4 focus areas, which was disability and gender. We were on the back of the gender pay gap being reported for the first time in the UK, and we went early. We were the first telco business to report our gender pay gap, and it has been reducing every year for years, which is great. We got female representation in leadership levels up from 26% to 37% while I was there, and 4 women on the board. So you know, you do have to, personally, I think, as leaders, lean in and just demand a level of activity that you know, switches the dial.